Hello, everyone, and hello, Anton. So we today have Anton Tiscovschi in the house here in Nova UCD, and Anton is a founding engineer at Kreoh, which is an AI automation solution software. And Anton previously studied computer science at Trinity College Dublin, so we have an interesting episode about how you went straight from Trinity into your startup. So welcome, Anton.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, brilliant. So, and the first thing I want to understand is yourself. So, I want to understand why did you study computer science in the first place? Why you both kind of decided to start working in technology? And what was it about your family that you both decided to work together? Because Kreoh is something that you're working on with your brother, which is very cool.
Yeah, that's a great question. So, the why I started in technology, I don't have a super exciting background story about that. I was actually wanted to be a doctor my whole teenage years, but I was much better at maths and physics kind of generally than biology and that kind of stuff. So I thought I'd play to my strengths a bit. That's why I chose computer science. And on top of that, my brother, who was probably more into computers, was already doing a computer science related course. So I guess we did foresee that we're potentially working together in the future.
What's the age gap between yourself and your brother? How much older is he?
Just 2 years, but our parents get us the same generally.
Sure.
When we were growing up, because I guess that's easier, same house rules for all the kids. Like, I guess until we were 16 and 18, then yeah, some separation there. But our parents, my mom, for example, is a dentist. My dad is a maths teacher. They're not exactly in the tech field. They just wanted us to do something that was, a solid job. So like medicine, computer science, his lawyer, nothing like too prescriptive, like you have to be this because it's the family way. Yeah, so that's kind of how I got into computer science. In fact, I'd say for the first 3 years in university, I was like not really sure if I like it. But then I did a personal project, and after that personal project, I was like, this is so fun. And to this day, it's fun.
Can you talk to me about that? So, talk to me about why, I suppose, maybe you didn't enjoy it at first. Like, what were the factors that made it so that you didn't enjoy computer science? And then the personal project changed that. And why? What was it that should everyone basically do some kind of personal project when they're studying technology, computer science?
I think so. I think a lot of people who had already done personal projects coming into university definitely had more enthusiasm for the first few years. But in my case, you imagine like you're in secondary school, just doing your normal subjects, and you put down computer science and you go into that, and just people telling you, okay,
why did you put computer science? Because your brother.
Well, like I said, I had medicine as my kind of first choices, but in hindsight, I'm glad I didn't get into that. There's a whole HPAT test, and you gotta get like 1,000,000 points for that. So
in Ireland,
yeah. And then it's actually really hard and long hours. So in hindsight, I'm actually happy that things turned out the way they did. But I'm going into university. I never really had a particular interest in computer science before this, and you have all these people that are okay, learn these algorithms, do these math equations, do these proofs, and you're a bit like, okay, this is hard. Hard can be fun, but you're not really like sure where the payoff is with all of this. Like, am I just gonna be doing this weird computer science kind of just sort of solving like things in a box? And that's when I made so fast forward 2 years of university like this, a bit of COVID in there. Lots of fun though. University, very, very fun. Like, sports teams, parties, all that stuff. So that was more funding my enthusiasm for college than computer science passion. But come third year, I'm on my volleyball team, and my coach is complaining that her attendance app is full of ads and spam and stuff, and is annoying to use. So I'm like, you know what? This is my calling moment. I'm going to make something for the first time with computer science. I became like totally obsessed when I was making this app. And there was nothing interesting. It was just something that I needed, not something that I thought I could go to market with or make millions with. I was just like, okay, this is useful for specifically me and maybe my coach. So I would stay up at night working on it obsessively. And I was like, this is really, really fun. It was, I don't know, it's a building stuff. It was crazy.
So it sounds like that might be the thing that so it sounds like your whole life up until that point had, not your whole life, but some aspects of your life had been focused on I'm going to sort of do in a way the prescribed thing. Like you put medicine as your first choice, and then you had computer science as kind of the next thing. Not really sort of knowing that much. It sounded like you didn't sort of know too much about sort of computer science, what you would have to study beforehand. So it was a little bit of a shock to the system when you started it. But you kind of followed the prescribed path in a way of, well, ideally medicine, if not computer science. Okay, now I'm in computer science, and now the first 3 years, okay, they're telling me to learn this, learn this, learn this, and it wasn't so much. It didn't come from yourself. Like what you wanted to do. It was only ultimately in your final year where you were like, oh, here's something that I want to do. And that's when, correct me here if I'm wrong, but it seems like you started driving, because soon after that, you also started working on Kreoh as well. So it was more about leaning into the thing that you were interested in.
Yeah, I would say like what I do at Kreoh is closer to the personal project than what I was doing at university. But I wouldn't say that it's like that was all time. Like that, I wouldn't rag on the university and say that was like, oh, they weren't doing the right things and they should have been doing personal project ethics. I think I did know what I was getting into with computer science as well. I assumed there's going to be lots of maths and hard stuff, but it was kind of, the pay off a little bit of like, okay, I was in university for a few years. I learned the basics, which kind of set me up to then be able to even do that personal project. All right, enough foundation to be able to build something. So
makes sense. So it was more that like computer science in general is hard. Like there's a lot of kind of moving pieces that you have to learn. There's like for programming side, there's the architecture side, there's the operating system side, there's all sorts of things there, and everything's changing all of the time, and everything has to work together. So it's hard, definitely doable, for anyone doing it. But then that foundation for you, that was sort of necessary in a way. Getting to a certain skill level was necessary for you to enjoy it and to be able to pursue these sort of kind of bigger things that were interesting to you.
Yeah, I think that's true. Although I do also think that if I had decided that I want to build something earlier, I would probably be okay as well, because you can just learn from YouTube now, from AI and stuff like that. So yeah, you're not blocked at any point from building something. I'll say the biggest freeing thing for me was letting go of the idea of I need to go to market, I need to think of $1 million idea, and only then will I build something. Instead, I just said, okay, I want this, and I don't care if no one else wants this. I'm gonna build it for me, and that's enough. And I found that really motivating. That I was like, okay, I'm building it, and I know I'm going to use it. So
yeah,
it's like building a little table for your house or something.
Yeah, that makes sense. So it's in a way like getting rid of the expectations of trying to do something that you think others might want, and it's like, I'm just doing this because I think it's cool.
Yeah, I think so. And like Liana said, university, don't get intimidated. Yes, the study part was hard, but I am the prime example of how university can be 90% fun and sports, 10% studying, and you will still.
Oh, really?
They're okay after.
What do you mean by that?
Well, my parents would always joke that volleyball training was cancelled, and I wouldn't even bother to take the train out to university.
You went to you went to university for for volleyball.
Oh, absolutely, for the volleyball and the all the society fun around that, and just hanging out with people, meeting your friends. And yeah, the college part was somewhat hard, but you can really get by without like, breaking your back. I'll say it felt, from my mind, somewhat easier than even secondary school. So I really recommend people to go to university out of fun than out of like career or like, oh, I need to do this to be like a super productive, epic person.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's about kind of discovering things about yourself and getting to experience new things that maybe wouldn't have been as accessible if you were in secondary school. And it's kind of becoming a fuller version of yourself, and you can't see that, looking forward is hard to sort of see, what would that mean, but looking backwards you can see sort of the growth.
Yes. And I want to go back to my school, Barbary Creative College, shout out, to give a talk to the students one day to say like, hey guys, go to university, it's really fun. It's not just studying. I was in this school and it sucked and I didn't like half of the teachers here, but I went to university and I was basic folks. I recommend it.
Oh no.
I'm joking, the more than half of the teachers were most of the teachers.
Yeah. Fair. Okay, great. So you did this project in your final year, and then how did Kreoh come about?
Yeah, so also somewhat interesting story. And I was doing summer camps almost all through university, where I'll go to Germany and teach German kids English, which was actually great. You pick up a lot of good management skills doing stuff like that, even if you don't want to be like a teacher or whatever. So, and the boss of that company told me, hey, do you want to like go into business together? So I'm actually seriously considering just fully abandoning what I was studying and getting into the business of sports camps and language camps in Germany. So that would be an interesting pivot. But kind of in that area, when I was deciding what I'm going to do, my brother, Gary, the current CEO of Kreoh, kind of came over to me and said, hey, I had this idea. I'm at Dog Patch Labs, working on this project at the time. It was a multiple question kind of, or like a study add-on on YouTube videos that had like learning material. It was like very, very far from what Kreoh is now. I don't know if you're thinking that AI, but I was still like, you know what, this sounds really cool. Kind of doing the started business together. Obviously, it's my brother, so it's always really fun to work with family. And some of our friends were also in the talks of helping us do this. So I was like, yeah, let's do this. And I was still in university at the time, actually, so I was very part-time and very useless at coming at like an enterprise level. So after that, it kicked off, and I started getting really, really small tasks from them just to help out. I did when since I was in my last year, you have to do a mandatory internship for half of that year. And I was like, you know what, this is the perfect opportunity, because all my friends are breaking their backs trying to get internship.
If you want to do fifth year, right?
Yes. I did the big scout play where you say you gotta do 5 years, and then you drop out after doing the internship years.
Which I am not advocating for. I just went to Trinity, and I know about this thing. Yeah.
I did this. I honestly thought I was going to do 5 years, and then, Kreoh's doing okay, so I had to stay. I don't say you should do that. Had to do that. They let me do it.
You said
it. And they let you graduate as well, so shout out Trinity. Thank you.
So you had this initial project that you were working on. Can you tell me how this project went from that into Kreoh? What is a transition?
Yeah, that journey is there's quite the lore to all of this. I went through a few iterations. So, and sorry to Kreoh if I get something wrong here, but this is how I see it. Okay, so it might not be the explicit truth. Sure.
Yeah.
We started off as we had this idea that there's learning videos on YouTube, and it would be awesome if you get some kind of revision questions to help you do space revision. It's something that most of us use the university to help us learn things. And you kind of get them
like flashcards.
Yeah, like you get a flashcard memo after watching a video, and I'm helping learn it, because me and Gary, and actually most people have always been so passionate about education tech, because it's like, oh, it'd be so so useful to learn through like the technology or whatever. But obviously, it's not always the best like business model. But this did actually make us some money. It was the first money that Kreoh or Terabyte or Soscall, whatever the name was at that time. It went through a few iterations before Kreoh.
So what did you actually sell?
Okay, yeah, that's a good question. So this was the first pivot. So we wanted to do it for YouTube, and then we realized that YouTube was not going to pay us anything. So we pivoted to kind of writing corporate learning questions. So
Corporate training.
Corporate training. So there's corporate training videos that people come into a company and they watch, and then they get like multiple choice questions off of the back of that. And there's even companies that specialize in supplying these multiple choice questions. And what we sold, and this was around the time when, you got your first kind of AI models. I think Gary had met another guy in...
Gary's your brother.
Gary, my brother, had met another guy in Patch, Davis McSherry.
Patch being one of the programs for young people to start businesses that is run out of Dog Patch Labs in Dublin.
Yes, very good program. I would recommend. And
did you go through that as well?
No.
It's okay. Gary, your brother died.
My family on me.
Yeah.
So
he had gone through this program, sorry.
Yeah, he had gone through this program, and we essentially got a contact with this other company. I'm not going to name drop companies just in case. And they were writing questions for other companies for the corporate learning, and we essentially generated like this set of questions based on some videos they sent us. Very early AI. What this was like impressive to do now, though, be like, this is like the worst use of AI ever. It's so obvious. But at the time, no one really was using these AI models. There was no hype train yet, and we just sold it as like a batch of questions, and they were like, cool. But again, this wasn't like necessarily most.
And you sold it to the company that was already creating these corporate training courses to them. You weren't competing with them.
No, we weren't competing. We essentially, they're like a business. And this is actually similar to our model of creating R&D claims.
Yeah.
We're not trying to take out companies that are, professionals in making R&D claims. We just want to, make them more efficient, faster, less boring work. And like, we are the experts now, because we're not the experts at that stuff, and we're not the experts at MCQ questions. So we just set them.
Yeah.
And then actually their writers, probably went through those questions and reviewed them and improved them. But it just kind of saved them the initial part of, just typing it all out.
Yeah.
So that was kind of our first Kreoh sale.
Great.
Which was cool. But still, we were like, okay, look,
what kind of money were we talking about? You can share, like, was it kind of, it was small.
Yeah, well, for us, like maybe $1,000 or something like that.
Yeah.
Still cool, any money made as a business is like a win, I think. Especially in nice there.
Yeah.
So, this is a famous Kreoh quote where at this point we had grown a bit. We had Bareed, our CTO, now already in the mix.
So, this was still not with Kreoh, but still with the question kind of generator.
Yeah, kind of. So this is very early Kreoh. We're talking like 3 years ago, maybe. I don't even think we were an LTD then. So, but we're kind of growing now. More familiar faces showing up for Reed, who still had a real job, a full-time job at the time. Kind of started helping us, and
I love it. This concept of like, this is a real job. It's kind of.
I'm the worst for saying that. I would say like, I never had a real job. So you have a real job now, but that's. No.
I'm sure your brother is like, what?
But it's my podcast. So. It's culture. Yeah, we sat down with the guys, which are clearly trying to like build the biggest hammer, because we're all engineers. And we're all like, we want to build some tech, we want to build stuff, build. But we're like, we need to really figure out who we're building for, and do people need what we're building. So we said the quote was, we're building the world's biggest hammer. We don't have a nail, so we don't know what like we're trying to, to work on. So we said, how about we just go to people and say, look, have this new technology, it's AI, it's very cool. People are starting to hear about it now. This was like pre-GPT-3, even it was quite long ago. Maybe just GPT-3 just came out. And so models were quite bad then. No offense to models. Well, they were still very impressive for the time, but they're nothing. They were nothing. To now, like,
yeah.
But
So this is the pre-AI boom that ChatGPT kind of brought about.
yeah, let's say so.
Yeah.
And we essentially, but we were already in the network. We had made some connections even through this FCQ stuff, and that's another reason why Dogpatch is really good, because you're always,
Perhaps the office face.
you're surrounded by people that are kind of doing businesses. Some people in a later stage, some people in an earlier stage. There's lots of, so it's the place to be if you want to, I think, start a company and just randomly bump into people that end up being useful. So we were in contact with another company, and they offered us, okay, we need this AI thing built for us, and have nothing to do with MCQs or RT. It was just a tool for generating the recipes. I won't say for who, just to get. But it was a really like fun implementation. They were like, okay, we kind of come up with these recipes. People send us these ingredients and stuff, and we come up with recipes. And yeah, we were like, cool, we'll do it for you. I think again, we're talking like 3,000 euros or something, like very low price. We just wanted to build something for someone. We would have we would have done it for free, but we kind of like, it wasn't about the money then. It was about some kind of pedigree and getting some kind of word of mouth built.
So can I just stop you there for a second? So just to understand where you are at this point. So you're kind of, Kreoh's changing. You're kind of you're starting to find some kind of a nail to the hammer that can build it.
Oh, we're past that. Where we found our nail, and we have like we've kind of cooked it off
right now, definitely. But at the time, are you in full time in college? Are you still in Trinity at this point? Have you now gone full time into Kreoh? Where are you in this life stage?
That's a great question. I was gonna kind of say okay, just to keep updates where my personal development is at this point. So I'm still in college doing my mandatory internship before my 5th year. That never happened.
Right.
So right, and I'm doing this project for a company, which is so cool because a lot of my friends are like, oh, I'm an intern, and making coffee and like kind of working on these like projects that are real. But I'm like, okay, cool, we're like your company. I'm talking to the end client. They're telling us what they want to do, and we're building it. It's really cool. I feel like I'm really involved, and it's really interesting. I have so much to write. My friend's like, I don't know what to write for my internship paper because I'm doing nothing. I'm like, I can't cut a nut. But it's really a lot of being done. It's cool.
What did your friends say? What did your parents and your friends say to you about what you're doing here? Because I sometimes I speak to people, and sometimes when people are starting off, there is a bit of negativity from people around them. What was your kind of environment or relationships like at the time? Were people encouraging, basically, or were they like, oh, he's just like going off to like a small bull, nothing? Were they dismissive, or were they encouraging, or somewhere in between?
Well, I'd say people were, maybe my circles were that. So everyone was like politely interested. They were like very curious, kind of very cool. That like,
cool.
You guys are doing your own thing. And some money has been made. That it's for my parents especially. They were very interested, intrigued, and fascinated by not fascinated. That kind of sounds like wow, but they were like, this is really cool. You guys sound like you're really doing something. So they were supportive. Friends. I mean, your friends are your friends. Like they're just doing their own thing, and you guys just talk about other stuff. So, but they definitely weren't being like negative about it. They thought it was funny because you're kind of like,
I can.
Your professors coming in to talk to the company to ask how you're doing. It's just like your brother there, and Fareed, they're kind of like, he's doing very well. What are they gonna say? But so they were saying that's very smart. So
okay. Great.
But the college knew, full transparency. They were like, we know this is your brother, by the way. You're not pulling that over us.
Yeah. Cool. No, that's great. And that's great. Okay. So let's go back into the shift of you're now Kreoh. So in the actual business, so as you're doing this, still kind of part of your sort of internship, quote unquote, there, and you're creating this recipe project.
Yeah. I want to emphasize something as well for like my personal side. I was still, when I started this internship, I was extremely green. Like I didn't really know how React worked, Python, databases, anything.
From a technology
perspective, because I knew like how to learn that stuff because I had done related stuff in university. I'd done a few personal projects. I had not just volleyball attendance one. I had another one, and I'd done a bit there, but very much not like enterprise level, and like full picture, like understanding the architecture behind everything. And especially Fareed, the CTO still now, really, really helped me so much. And that was really awesome about being in like a small company, was that they kind of took me an early stage when I should have done much, and they could spend lots of time kind of helping me, showing me around, showing me the ropes.
Yeah.
Tell me where to look, explaining stuff. So I feel like even in the period of the internship, from like when I started to when I was working on that project with the recipes, I'd learned so much new stuff. And actually, thanks a lot to the guidance of the guys who were just like a bit ahead of me. They graduated 2 years. Well, they graduated for 2 years, worked at bigger companies, but they really kind of pulled me to their level. It took the time to do that. So that was awesome.
I think that's a really fair point, just because sometimes there's a misconception that when you're starting to work on business, because ultimately all of you were still it was early stage for all of you, I would say. People assume sometimes that you have to kind of know everything, or there's just this kind of inherent assumption that you just have to know everything, and then you're going to go in and it's almost like, oh, you have to wait until you know everything before you can really start, or before you can really get going. And it applies to actually anything, to be honest. But in reality, like you said, you're going to learn as you're doing it. You're going to learn from people around you as you're doing it. So it's better to sort of go into it with the belief that you can and will learn, but knowing that you may not know everything at the start. In fact, I would say everyone probably doesn't know everything at the start when they're doing something. I feel like it's the kind of, that happens. Ultimately, everyone is a beginner when they're starting something. So I think it's really, really, it's really nice to hear you say that it's kind of, you went for it anyway, even, I don't know if you knew how much you didn't know. I know, but that's also a thing. That's based on what you said that about it. Yeah. What do you think?
Yeah, I agree. And especially in a startup environment where you're less of like a scalpel, you're more of like a doctor's full set of tools that you have to do lots of different stuff and see lots of sides. You will learn a lot. I don't think many people get as lucky as I did in the terms of they were in a startup very early, and I got lots of attention because there wasn't, when a startup is gets in a later stage, things get very fast paced. You need people that know what they're doing to a certain degree that you can teach them and they'll pick things up quickly. But being in an early startup that isn't even like, doesn't have much clients yet, that's a really good place, I think, to learn, because essentially everyone's learning and there's no like pressing client called, this has got down, we need to fix this. So there's more of a learning and kind of exploring environment. So that was actually really cool for myself.
Yeah. That's and that's also super fair point there, that another thing that I'm hearing, that I've heard from a lot of people, is that you kind of have to go into this sort of pressure pot, and that is definitely one way to do it. That's like very valid and has worked and works quite well. And I think the likes of Y Combinator really like push that approach of that kind of, you go into this and you're gonna go 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 go, But so that's something, one way to do a startup. But then you're kind of saying for you it was this other way of you kind of took a little bit of your time and a little bit to sort of learn the basics, learn the kind of the foundations that then would have sort of set you up for where you are now, where I imagined that it would be a lot more go 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 and more sort of a pressure there.
Yeah, I love making the joke that when we're doing, I take part in some of the interviews now for the new candidates, and we have a decently high bar. We don't necessarily look that someone necessarily has to be doing everything we're doing, but we look for like, some personal projects and a general aptitude to learn quickly and some experience already. And I was always like thinking that if I had applied for Kreoh now, where I was when I started at Kreoh, if not higher pay, because I just didn't like have enough experience. But since it was early and there was time to learn, so yeah, it's really good. But
yeah, I love that. I feel like that's a different way to approach startups. Not everyone has the luxury of that, in some ways, perhaps financially or time-wise. But if you can, like, it can, you can make it work.
That's why doing it as part of your fourth year internship is
If you have the luxury of a 4th-year internship.
Yeah. So yeah, that's
Yeah. So, okay, so let's go into how Kreoh has progressed. Let's talk about where you are now. What are you doing now? And I'd love to get into some of the technology, some of the things that you've learned, like best practices from a technology, AI agents perspective. But first, tell me, what is Kreoh now? So initially, I think I introduced it as a AI automation solution software, I think is what I said. Can you go into more detail about what that means? And also you said around helping to automate R&D processes and things like that. Talk about what that is.
right. So Kreoh now, fast forward the timeline, we have two main size stores. We have a boxed off SaaS product that we sell as a platform to R&D firms to use to help write R&D claims. So we're not writing R&D claims, we're working with the R&D claim firms that write R&D claims for other companies.
Can you use what are R&D claims? So research and development.
Yes, research and development is anything like that's pushing science and creating new things. And there's a process for this to avoid fraudulent claims. So let's say I say that I created this new coffee cup. It's research and development. There's never been this kind of logo on it. It's brand new. I need to actually prove that to a governing body in Ireland or the UK that this is. They'll say, no, it's not. It's just a coffee cup, put a different label. So there's rules and regulations, and this is great for stopping people from claiming stuff that's not R&D, but it's not good for, not that's not good, but this obviously creates barriers for people that are doing real R&D and are pushing the, new horizons for technologies. But they're not experts in how to submit these claims. So there's other companies, kind of third parties, that are experts in this, they interview the person that did the R&D, and then they submit the claim for them, for a small cut of the grant they get, I suppose.
So can you, so I suppose what counts as real R&D? Can you give an example of, I don't know, something real that you worked on or something kind of tangible? You mentioned the coffee mugs, but maybe it's like that. I love it.
So, a tangible R&D example would be you came up with some special kind of solar panels that more efficiently transfer energy to your house, or can better take in the sunlight, something like that. Something that's an actual development that this thing didn't exist before. And you've invented something. You invented something new that's useful and novel and is real. There's lots of regulations, but to the point is that I am not actually an R&D expert. And this is very important distinction. I am not claiming to be an R&D expert, even though I work in automating R&D. Obviously, I've learned stuff about R&D in this process, but one of the things that we focus on is we go to the experts and we understand how they, we understand their expertise, and then we translate that into our platform for them. So I said box off, right? As if we just sell this like cookie cutter platform that generates R&D forms, but that's not actually entirely accurate. Every single client we have an onboarding period, which we understand what their secret sauce is, how they write those forms, and we essentially just translate that into our platform until they feel, and they have to sign up to this, that their voice is heard on the platform. So that's really important for us. We're not again saying that okay, we are the R&D superheroes. We haven't been doing this for years. R&D, like I didn't even know what R&D was when I got into that program. But we talk to the people, and we're good at understanding what they do and then getting those sorts of outputs.
So you're essentially a technology partner for R&D solutions.
Yes, but that's, like I said, there's two parts to Kreoh, and that's just one part. So just, we can come back to the R&D part, so that is a big part. And the second half of Kreoh is still kind of true to that recipe generating first project that we did. We go to companies, whoever they may be, and they say, okay, I want to do something with AI. I want to automate some kind of process that is mundane and boring for my employees to do, and is a good use case for AI. And they need people to do this. So we come to them, or they come to us, and they say, let's do this project, and we'll do it for them. It can be, whatever they want. We could build a platform for them or directly integrate into their systems. We're working hand in hand with them and really building a tool to automate their software. You could do this. This is like, I think this business would work even without AI. Essentially, we're just building good workflow automation tools, and most of the time they use AI as part of the thing that, you know, delivers the value, but it's just good technology built for companies to make them more efficient.
Cool. Okay, so can you give some example use cases of workflows that you've automated?
Yeah, definitely. So one, I guess, great example would be there was this company, and they were having people manually transcribe invoices for and matching them to tariff codes, and which is quite boring, as you'd imagine. You're reading a invoice and you're finding the related tariffs for importation.
It's errors on as well.
Yes. You know, you might, you know, be not sure. Maybe you missed a tariff that could be relevant, and this at the time was a great use for AI. So we essentially would scan this invoice and use the AI to search through the database. Obviously, there was stuff built around this to help the AI. You can't just do these things with one prompt. Usually, it has to be some kind of workflow. And
so we can talk about that as well.
And match the codes to the tariffs. But that was actually a very early project for Kreoh. We have some, you know, ongoing ones right now as well. But I don't know if that's, I should get the too much detail.
So I think this episode might not be released for like a few months. So that will be even 2026. So if there's anything that, so I would actually like to understand more about in terms of the technology and how you're building that. So what is the process? What are the kinds of systems? Are they AI agents? How are you kind of developing these AI agents? Are you using frameworks, doing them yourself in-house without frameworks? Talk me through that.
So if, you know, every project is somewhat unique, but generally what's consistent across all projects in our systems, and I can say the tech stack later, but the core concept is that we almost always feed data to the AI. So
what data?
Whatever data is relevant to the project. So cases, it could be, for example, a database of tariffs and an invoice, right? And then it's just the process of how you get that data to the AI, how many calls you need, or this kind of thing. So, but it's very rarely just, you know, get the AI and hope that somewhere it knows these things. We believe that you need to say, okay, here are the relevant, here's the relevant information. Here's what I need to do with that relevant information that I extracted from Excel, some PDF, form, whatever they be, handwritten documents, anything. We're all about extracting that data from whatever document you have and then getting the right thing to the AI to make the decision about it, which is kind of what people do in a sense. But we really, that's the core concept. We very rarely had a project where it's just like, AI magic, go, you know, just do this.
Yeah, so you're essentially integrating a lot of these systems or systems data, and where or how are you storing it? And this brings to my mind this concept of agentic memory, which is becoming hotter topics at the moment. In terms of there's different kinds of ways to store data for AI agents, procedural and so on. And I don't mean in terms of like the names, but what are some of the sort of processes that you're looking at doing that?
Well, let's take a real example. So there are R&D claim engine. That's a good one to talk about because that's a public project, but that's on our website. Sure. No secrets there. So let's say I want to write a section of my R&D claim report. So just again to write research and development. When you do it, you need to submit a claim to the government to get a grant. And this claim has lots of sections, right? So first thing is we're not trying to generate the whole report in one go because it's just harder generally to control quality. But let's stay focused on the data part. You want to generate a section of this report. And what you need is for example, the interview that was conducted with the person where he talked about, this is research and development because yada yada, and maybe some supporting documents that the person trying to claim submitted.
And is that something, do you do those other parts, or was it that a business would come to you with those existing information or data?
Yes. So we would get this. So
Or Ben, they
from Hal, yeah. So L'Oreal, obviously so this is imagine a platform, right?
Yeah.
And they want to write a claim for a certain company they're working with, and they upload that data. So when they upload the document, it gets extracted. We have some, our own in-house extraction software that is actually part of the game is extracting the data out of PDFs and Word documents and Excels, which can also...
Is that some kind of AI agent kind of thing at a high level?
No, we don't extract currently the data using AI unless there's images. Sometimes we could do OCR using AI, but having some tie to reality, not to reality, to saying like, okay, I know that I extract this information with traditional coding practices, and with AI getting better, this is becoming almost less necessary. But currently, we do extract the information, just using the sometimes you could just extract the text, or OCR different areas, which technologies that have been around even before AI. Some parts like images can be processed with AI, described and put back, or there is a graph or something like that can't be extracted as text. But essentially, you've uploaded this, this audio file of an interview with a client, or a file describing the project that was done, that is R&D.
Yeah.
We've extracted that information. Now we have it in text format.
Okay.
Right. So now you say, I want to generate this section. So you can, we'll take that information and take instructions we predefined by talking to the client that describes how they write these types of sections, combine these things, and you can output the relevant section. If that was all that we were doing, it wouldn't necessarily be particularly impressive, but there's lots, it's like a suite of lots of these kind of tools that help you get all of these pieces. So if, you can, for example, another piece of this would be conducting the research online using AI to help you, get more information. So
that would be maybe, again, I'm guessing an AI agent of some kind that kind of searches the web for the relevant information.
Yes, but again, this AI agent would essentially, you would search the web normally and then give that information to the AI agent that would somehow process it and can identify it. But there is, even when we use the documents, actually something that is an important point for us, that when we generate that section, every sentence in that section is referenced with content from the original document. And we think this is an important point for now. People do have trust issues, they're like, okay, the AI has outputted this section and it said that the person said this and he said that. What if he didn't? What if he didn't say that? What if the AI just thought he said that and it's lying? And people worry about that stuff because you submit something for the government and the government, you want it to be factual. You want to based on the truth.
And if the government asks, so, where did that come from? And then it's like, oh, I don't know, the AI said that. Yeah, I hallucinated that. That's not so great. So it's really one of my hallucinations.
Yes. So obviously you can, giving it the data in the first place is definitely going to help with that. But for the user's peace of mind, every sentence, if you click on it, will actually link you back to where in the document that was uploaded that was set. And there's a whole pipeline to do this. But when you click it, you can actually find in the original document that section in the transcript. So you're like, okay, this transcript wasn't acquired using AI. This section was generated using AI, but I can match. It's now becoming like it's pointing to me where it got the information from, the real data. So that's what it really kind of can take away all the worries of that user. And a lot of our projects are now using this referencing and citation stuff to call people and say, okay, I'm about to submit this work, and I know it's truth because I actually used the AI response as almost like an index to find where the relevant information was. So that's something that's big for us.
So that's a form of RAG, I suppose, retrieval event generation, would you say?
There's several ways to do citations. Some do involve RAG, where you can use RAG, but RAG is very flawed. A lot of people, it's not very flawed. It can be flawed if you flawed.
Flood. How to spell this? Sorry. Flood or flat?
Flaw. As in like flaw. As in like RAG can have it can trip up a lot. So it's constructing the right RAG query to find the right RAG chunks, and then using. So I don't know. This is too much secret sauce, but we'll use a combination of AI and RAG to get the relevant references. You can't necessarily just use RAG because it will trip up, and then you don't want to give a reference that isn't relevant because RAG just did its own thing. You want to actually use both, where you get real data, but then you get the AI to verify what's right, what's wrong, that kind of thing.
Okay. Yeah. So you're kind of differentiating between RAG and AI, the LLM itself.
Well, how to say? So, just to go back to the example, so we got a draft.
Yeah.
That was generated by the AI, right?
Yeah.
And we have real document text that we have in the document that the person actually said is a transcript, right? If I just took a sentence from there and did RAG on that document, I might get one thing that's relevant and 5 things that are irrelevant. Yeah. And it'll be very messy. So it's about using the AI to kind of clean up what I'm getting when I use RAG to give citations.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. So you might have like multiple, you could maybe check multiple times. You can have multiple AIs possibly check it, or kind of other sort of ways to verify that what the RAG system is doing is accurate and relevant.
But the key here is the AI is verifying what the RAG did is correct, but it's not actually generating the reference, so that the reference is still, in a sense, in reality, it's in the document. It wasn't just outputted by an AI.
Yeah.
The AI just kind of said, like, yeah, that looks good. That looks relevant, essentially.
Okay, cool. Okay. So that's so then that's one way that you're ensuring accuracy. How do you make sure that this doesn't how do you look at cost for this? So like for cost for the AI models. So I know that this is becoming less of a worry as the AI, as the LLMs are becoming cheaper to use. But how are you sort of keeping track of what's going on from a cost perspective? Or is that less of a worry now?
I would say it's less of a worry now, definitely, where the kind of value the AI provides against how much it actually costs you per token. Generally, the value is going to massively outweigh and outshine. So even if you're not being super optimal with your tokens, which when we develop, we have a rule that, like, guys, don't be scared to use the tokens, because the value you're getting, the money you're saving by using AI is going to massively pay for itself. But we do have projects where costs are concerns, where we're building, one of our projects is more akin to a kind of everyday productivity tool rather than a specific like workflow automation. And in that case, where cost was important, part of optimizing for cost was using a combination again of RAG to get not just I'm going to dump these 5 documents into the context method, which works great, and you should do sometimes if you want a summary, use the whole document, use the whole text. If you want to just QA and get a certain snippet of information, maybe that's when you should use RAG, because that'll be more cost optimal, and both will work. But it would be a lot cheaper not to insert 300-page document of text into it just to get a snippet of information. So
yeah,
I'd say playing around with stuff like that can help with cost if that's a concern for your client or whatever.
I imagine one concern it would be privacy. How are you ensuring privacy for the clients?
So we post our models on Azure in Europe. This can be annoying at times when America's got some new models that came out and they happen to arrive in Europe yet, but that's just how it is.
So you essentially host them yourself rather than have call the APIs from the likes of OpenAI?
Yeah, definitely. It's very important to be GDPR compliant and to give data residency to clients. So actually it's something that we feel that is important to tell people if you're working that. We have our models hosted on Azure in Sweden. The data never goes outside of Europe, so that's kind of that's as safe as it will get in terms of, and I would say it would be kind of a good thing to say if you're making maybe a sale for like an AI product you use, that could be a good point to throw it there to say, oh, by the way, our products are in Europe, and they're like, okay, these guys they're thinking about the right things, they're not just sitting white data all over the world.
Makes sense. So how are you a fan of using, so when you're creating these kind of systems, again, I keep using the term AI agent, but I know it's more of an AI system, more, broader kind of system. Are you using any kind of frameworks to build these? And I'm sure that it, differs per project. But for example, are you using like Kreoh AI or any of those kind of frameworks? Or have you found, what are some of the best practices that you found that work?
So in terms of how we interface with the AI, like a tech level, we use a Python backend web server. It's built with fast API, and we have our own LLM service kind of file there that is set up to interface with different models. So that's just kind of codec in a sense. We don't use any packages. We're maybe
Or LangGraph for any of those.
we don't use it. Maybe to a fault, we don't use that stuff. We love to build in-house. Like I said before, Kreoh is full of engineers who, if you're not going to show me exactly how it works, then I'm not using it type of thing. And we build a lot of the things ourselves, like the document extraction, a whole service for interacting with LLMs in a way that you could talk to any model, and kind of to centralize the, it's one input and it can build any model because they can have different formats and stuff like that. But it's all in Python fast API. We don't really use those packages. Those can be cool though for experimenting with different flows, visualization, that kind of stuff, I think.
Cool. And have you noticed any patterns about maybe which AI models have sort of better use cases? Like, for example, the famous Claude is known for being very good for coding. Have you noticed any of those kind of patterns?
For us, we find that Claude 4 and Gemini 2.5 Pro right now are kind of, if you got them, that use them. If you really would want some output to be good and solid and consistent and listen to instructions.
What kind of output, is it that these are good for?
I mean, there's this article called AI 2027 that says that I think next year there's going to be the first AI code. And
AI code.
Yeah, AI code. And I think I'm going to see the founder because Gemini 2.5 Pro is just, for me, is amazing at just about everything. Coding, huge context window. It's a great educator. When I use it when I code as well, and it explains stuff to me whenever I need it. I'm big on actually AI education. It's a bit of a tangent though. I don't know if
Wait, you talk about that afterwards.
Yeah. Yeah, it's just what you tell it that you want, it does, and it does well, and it listens. And I find with previous models, that was a huge problem. You're like, do this. Under no circumstances, do not do this. I beg you, only use it as a. Let me do the exact opposite.
Please don't hallucination.
Yeah, so with GPT 3.5, you had a lot of that, but
yeah,
I would say 4.1, 4.1 mini for little tasks, especially if you've got a whole AI pipeline and you want to
OpenAI's GPTs.
Yeah, GPT 4.1, 4.1 minis for smaller tasks. Claude 4, Sonnet, and Opus. Opus is if you are a millionaire, you've got you want to spend $1,000, I recall. Sonnet is very solid too. I don't know. I haven't really played around much with the whole theory of, which model is best for which use case. I find that the one that's better at one thing is usually better at other stuff as well. The reasoning models are really good for really big firepower for just about any task. If it can reason, it's just good at doing stuff. But I wouldn't be the expert on if you have this type of task, then use this model. If you have this type of task, generally Gemini 2.5 Focus for me is my favorite by far.
Cool. Okay. What about another sort of, because we've gone through a few non-functional sort of requirements when you're building these kind of AI systems. What about security? How are you making sure that your systems are secure, or not even how you're doing it, or what's important? What are the things that you're sort of considering?
Well, wait, you have an authentication library with like 2FA and stuff to make sure that no one can get into our systems. We do have a dedicated security person at Kreoh, who cannot be named because he's a very private person, which is good. So we don't have a security person at Kreoh. Don't look for him because then he says, "Get away quick."
It's your brother.
No, sorry, brothers. Yeah, I'm probably shouldn't have said we have that first. He's gonna give out to me, but yeah, that he makes sure. So we have our ISO certifications and stuff. So we have to go through a process to make sure.
You got an ISO. Was it 27001, or which ones did you go for?
Yeah, SOC 2 and ISO 2071.
So 27001.
Yeah, so that was a whole process that kind of our CTO and
No, you're not.
in terms of security, I mean, when I code on a day-to-day basis, I just make sure that everything I write, that you make sure the users who's access this endpoint of the backend is authenticated and has the right permissions. Is there a kind of RBAC security level? So, did you mean more from like a prompt injection perspective?
You can talk about that, sure, but I meant even generally.
Yeah, I mean, generally, it's like good coding practice has always been, I think, a thing where, like, if an application is secure, it's like, but specifically to AI, I think actually a lot of developers don't consider the possibility of someone like injecting a prompt to try get to not behave a certain way.
Yeah. It's a new kind of, it's a new risk that's not as well known.
Yeah, it's like a whole new kind of way to attack an application rather than just the traditional ways. I don't know.
I suppose because like indirect prompt injections would be one kind of big risk that I just see for you guys from the perspective, but you have all of these documents coming in, and you just want to be careful, like what is in the documents isn't going to skew or really just like skew the the output, or really just jailbreak what should be going on.
Yes, that's a good point actually, but being very explicit with the AI about what is part of a document and then what are my instructions really helps it process that, especially with newer models, which are smarter, generally speaking. You say, okay, here's my document chunks. It's like, okay, I'm not going to actually listen to anything, set it there and take it as an instruction. And here are the instructions it can
belong to. Is it up to the user to put in the parts of the document that are relevant, you think? Or is it just like the user puts in the...
No, the puts in the whole documents, we handle the rest. But, getting the right data to the final model that then gives the output, that's kind of where we work. So though we wouldn't expect the user to kind of a document.
No, well, that's not like there's another forms where people have to put in the right piece of information into it. So that's definitely, I definitely see other software do that.
No,
in my defense, that is the thing that I have seen.
We believe in a good data dump it too. Gives you back. It's like it's exactly what you need.
Just over, it makes it easy for the user.
Defeat purpose to an extent if you have to essentially do the labors of part of getting the right information. You might as well just write whatever you're writing at that point. So you want that's the beauty. One of the most beautiful things about AI, you get a huge amount of information, and you output exactly what you need without having to go through that whole searching and whole process. You want to save time.
That makes a lot of sense. So maybe you talked about how you really like using AI for education.
Yes.
Let's talk about that.
Yeah, let's talk. I love this.
Me too, by the way. Yeah.
So there's this term going around called vibe coding.
Oh yes.
Lots of people like a bit of vibe coding. And every time you open a PR that your friends don't like, they're like, what is this vibe coded garbage? Just keep going and insult both them. So
new ways to like insult that. You're shaming.
That's created new insults, right? But I think it's important to understand. Well, here's how I define vibe coding.
Yeah,
I think coding with AI is totally fine and great, and it doesn't automatically mean you're vibe coding. I think the difference between coding with AI and vibe coding is if you know what's happening and if you don't. So if you're vibe coding, if you tell the AI to do stuff and you're okay, cool, and you have no clue what it did, and how the system functions. If it's, just instead of you typing everything out, it's, putting in the functions that you would have manually put in anyway, and maybe catching something you wouldn't have caught. That's just coding with AI, which is awesome. It's really fast and actually lets you build stuff, much faster. And one thing that I love doing, and I think that has actually kind of accelerated my growth as an engineer personally, is every time I'm coding and I don't build something, instead of being like, whatever, do it, because I have this deadline, I'm like, no, explain it to me. What's going on here? I don't actually know what this part is doing, or even if it's not specifically in the code base in the moment, before, when some kind of issue would come up that's kind of, as you would say, above my pay grade, I would be like, Marie, help me. They said this. I don't know how that works. And, before that, we just file. If someone's like more senior, you ask the senior engineer or whatever for help to explain that. But now there's no excuse really. You can just say, okay, this is what, a client said to me. This is what's wrong. You just find the snippets of information that are relevant to the problem and say, can you help me explain to me how this works? And I've learned so much just prompting the AI, asking for to give me explanations. If you don't understand, ask it to explain better. It makes visualizations, graphs. It's such a good learning tool. Like having a senior engineer next to you all the time that just passionately wants to help you and explain something. It's amazing.
Can you talk about some of the tools you're using for this? So are you using the likes of maybe as IDEs, or, do you have any favorite IDEs? Or like, how are you kind of doing these sort of questions?
Yes, I can't talk about that. So I would use just raw VS Code with client, but I do use Cursor with client. But it doesn't mean I'm like Cursor endorser. I don't like Cursor. What? I'm an addict, basically. I started using Cursor like a year and a half ago, and they had this tab complete that was so useful. It was just so good. But generally, the platform, I didn't like it so much, mainly because they use RAG too much when they shouldn't be. If I say, I want to give these 3 documents as context, I don't want them to RAG to save money because of their weird pricing system. I wanted to just give the whole context of those 3 files, which is something that client does do, I find. And for client, I can provide my own API keys. So just to differentiate, client is a extension that can just be added to VS Code that kind of adds a sidebar, and Cursor is a whole IDE. I do this weird thing where I use Cursor with client. So I have client as an extension of Cursor, and I use Cursor only for the tab templates. Why don't I use GitHub Copilot in VS Code? Because I don't like it. It's not as good. I'm sorry, the tab completes and Cursor just are these mind reading technology or something where whatever is amazing, and I can't stop using it. So that's the only reason I'm paying €20 a month, and I never actually use my 500 requests on Cursor. I just use the tab complete. So
Wait, like when was the last time you tried VS Code? By any chance? Was this recent?
I tried. No, I occasionally have this like existential IDE crisis, right? All the different IDEs, and like, let me do VS Code Insiders, VS Code Windsor, whatever, and I'm like, which one's better? And we compare all the features. But now I'm like, I've kind of settled down for a while, with Cursor for tab completes. Yeah, you guys know what I mean. Just tap. When you're changing like a variable name or something, it's useful. And then for actual like serious work, you use Klein, which has 2 modes, which is amazing. It has planning mode and act mode. So first you say, okay, this is what I want to do, and you're planning mode. It's not even going to touch your code yet. And it's creating a plan, writing it out. Here's what I want to do. You're like, wait, why do you want to do that and not this? Oh, okay, wait, explain. And it's like, okay, should that be changed by client? Or it explains to you, and you kind of go through this iterative process where you're understanding what's going on. It's explaining to you what it's going to do and why. And then only when you've kind of got a comprehensive plan of this code change you're going to do, you say act. And then it acts, and then it changes stuff. Creates a Git diff for you. You can review it, manually edit it, tell it, why did you do that? That wasn't in the plan or whatever. And it's just a really nice flow. It's slower than Cursor, but that's actually key. It is slower, and it's okay for it to be slower because it gives you time to know what's going on. While Cursor is like, hi, can I already editing 3 background agents. I'm just changing the code base. No one's ever going to know how to work on it except me.
Yeah.
So I'm all the way for me.
Yeah, I think recently, was it even yesterday? And, Chick Guan, you wrote the book AI Engineering. I saw she had a LinkedIn post that where she said something along the lines of, she has discovered, she's realized that when it comes to using AI for writing code, she's the bottleneck rather than the AI, because it's about how much you can keep track of what these kind of different AI processes are doing to write the code. I think that's very important, because ultimately that's going back to what you said about the difference between AI's code and vibe coding, where it's, you're keeping track of what the AI is doing is the better way, rather than vibe coding is more sort of like, it has its place, by the way. I'm not going to adopt a vibe coding, because I think it's great for like little tiny prototypes. So, sort of at the very beginning when you're just testing things out. But for production systems, you want to know what's going on, and you want to keep track of all of those sort of threads. And like if the AI just kind of goes and does things, you've lost track of what's going on. So then how can you sort of take on the next step after that, or how can you work with others for them to kind of work on that code base afterwards? So I definitely think that like Chip Ewan said, and like you said as well, that humans are still should be in charge.
For 2 years, for about 2 years, okay. I think 2 years is gonna be like literally like, okay, because sometimes clients have started giving out to me, and I use client mostly with Gemini 2.5 Pro, even though
Clients is in customers now.
No, client.
Client
With Gemini 2.5 Pro, sometimes I'm planning, and I'm like, okay, why are we doing this? And client will get impatient and be like, why are you planning for so long? I've explained to you like 3 times what I want to do. Are you stupid? Let me just do it. So I'm like, I started to feel like maybe I'm holding it back. It knew what I was going to do, and it just needed to explain to me with like better boards and stuff why this is going to work, why it makes sense of it. So then you like really think like, okay, well, if there are a few model iterations later where it will make the occasional logical mistake, maybe it's almost like this background agents that you think, should I just stop? Like, should I just give it like the scope of work and then just be like, okay, here's the the very high level thing I need to do, and then it will just do it itself, and I won't waste its time. I don't know. Let's see what the future holds.
Yeah, it's interesting, because I definitely think that AI is being used so much with programming. But I've heard different opinions of how useful it is, in the sense of how much a senior engineer is using it versus and I suppose it could be like even see it more. It's more about a senior engineer who's comfortable with that existing code base that they're working on versus someone who's maybe new to that code base. There's sort of differing amounts of usage of AI there.
Yeah. For now, I would say my advice is, if you're new to a code base, use the AI to learn about the code base, and start letting it make changes when you know exactly what's doing. Not saying that's always going to be the case, maybe in like a few years that's not going to be the case, but I guess we can only work with what we have now, right?
Yeah. Like now with this concept of context engineering, which brings things in like planning and so on to the code bases, and I think this concept has only been named quite recently in the filming of this podcast, but ultimately it is something that I think it was a practice that was starting to slowly come on board for quite at least since last year, probably.
Yeah.
Great. So yeah, this has been a super, super fascinating episode. Thank you so much for this, Anton. I think we'll probably wrap it up there. Are there any final thoughts that you want to share with anyone that is listening?
Yeah, use AI to learn. I use it to learn about not just coding. I use it to learn a lot lately I watch a movie. I'm like, are there any themes I might have missed? I read a book. Maybe didn't understand a page. I'll take a picture, talking on the book, and it comes up with some amazing stuff. So use AI to learn.
And expand your thinking.
I think it's going to make us all smarter than before, which is cool.
Awesome. Okay. Amazing. Thank you so much for this, Anton. Super interesting episode. Loved hearing about what you're doing with Kreoh and with AI overall, and loved hearing your history with getting started there. So thank you. And also thank you to our listeners. As always, if you like this episode, please make sure to like it and follow us, and also share it with your friends. Thanks again.
Thanks.